In today's video, I've shared to you the 10 biggest hypertrophy training mistakes that you can make. So first of all, ask yourself deep down, when you first did start lifting, you probably wanted to get bigger. Broader shoulders, bigger arms, bigger chest, overall just to get bigger. And also you are natural, so that's why I'm making this video. And over time, we get skewed, drifted, and basically misguided for our original goal, which was to get just bigger. So that's why point number one, the first mistake, is brainwashed by powerlifting or even power building. So when I first started to watch YouTube fitness, it was about 10, maybe 12 years ago, somewhere around the year 2010. And at that point, basically powerlifting, power building was, I think, at its peak, and everything was structured around your bench, your squat, your deadlift. Basically, if you were not doing these 3 big lifts, then what are you even doing there in the gym in the first place? So if a beginner would start to lift, then he would be put something on a 5x5 starting strength program, strong lifts, or some power building program where you had a day focused on strength, the other on hypertrophy, or you had a workout structured where first you will start off with strength training and then at the very end of it you will do something for size. So what's the problem with all of this? Basically, if everything is only hyper focused on these big 3 lifts, then everything else will be neglected. You see the problem, I don't want to name any names of the channels that I used to watch. Some of them did present better information, some worse, but basically I was always kind of skeptical when looking at the physiques of these lifters. They had very good numbers in bench, squat and deadlift, and basically they had a physique that didn't represent these numbers at all. So I looked at them and they were most of the time kind of bottom heavy. So they had big thighs, big glutes, sometimes even a big chest. This physique was not appealing to me. And I did think, well, I should hyper focus here on this big 3 lifts and I will have this bottom heavy physique that didn't look that aesthetic to me. So something didn't feel right at that time for me. And also you look at guys that were strong as hell, but they had small arms, not wide shoulders, and I thought to myself, it doesn't make any sense. You are lifting that much weight, but you don't even look like you lift, especially in your upper body. And then you start to follow their training philosophies. Everything centered around the squat, bench, deadlift, and basically they say things like, oh, calves are just genetic, they are worked when you are squatting, you don't need to isolate your arms because they are worked in the bench press, forearms are worked on the deadlift, traps are also worked on the deadlift isometrically, so they will automatically grow. Basically just things like that are thrown around and everything is focused on strength, progressing on these power lifts, and then at the end of the workout you do a couple sets for your arms, couple sets for your lateral raises, like 3 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions, and you are not pushing these lifts hard. And then at the end of the day, it's not surprising at all that you end up with this bottom heavy physique, even a spider physique, where you have a big chest, for example, big back, also big thighs, but then your limbs, like your neck, let's say upper traps, shoulders, arms, forearms, even calves, they are just small. So in general, I can talk about this point over a very long period of time, but we have to move on with the list. But the main point is, when your goal is to get bigger, don't fall into the trap of powerlifting. It's 2 complete separate things. Both are training at the gym, the ones that focus on the power lifts and the ones that just want to get bigger. It's the same environment, but the goal is different. The powerlifting focuses on competing in powerlifting, in the squat, bench, deadlift, so they have to produce results in these 3 lifts. And the ones that do want to get bigger, they don't compete in anything at all. It's very subjective of how you can achieve this bigger look. And then the powerlifters look down on the bodybuilders because they are working on machines, maybe on cables. They are doing inferior lifts in their opinion. So yeah, I can talk about this first point all day long. Anyways, point number 2 is following enhanced fake Neti lifters and taking their advice when you are natural yourself. You see, the problem with this point is when you are following such lifters, especially you do find them on short form content and they present like a push-pull leg split, and the push day starts like this. You do 3 sets of bench, then you do 3 sets of incline dumbbell bench, then you do 3 sets of like cable flies, and you finish off with 3 sets of another press on a chest machine, let's say. And your workout looks like this. You did already like 12 sets for your chest alone. And where are the other muscle groups here? So in general, their programming does not make that much sense, if any sense at all. And over time they get skewed because most of the results they are getting from using the juice, being on gear, and they forget how to program, how to progress as a natural lifter. So I did unfollow all of the lifters that are enhanced and they are giving training advice. Basically, it doesn't interest me hearing anything from them if they are enhanced and they are giving advice how to program for natural bodybuilding. And the same thing goes for powerlifting. I did unfollow all the people that are hyper focused on the power lifts. So basically, it's not interesting for me at all. I just want to get pure hypertrophy training information. Now, point number 3 is understanding what makes a great physique in the first place. So in my opinion, if you want to have a good physique, it was always 2 points. First of all, have above average muscle size compared to the general population. And the second point was be leaner than the average population. And if you have these 2 advantages, you will have a good physique, you will stand out. For example, when you are in the beach, in the gym, whatever. Nowadays, I think a little bit different. These 2 points still apply, but there's a third point. And the third point is develop the small muscle groups that are neglected by most people. You see, you cannot spot reduce fat. So if you are in a calorie deficit, you will reduce your overall body fat percentage, and that's it. You cannot control. You cannot say, oh, I want to lose here a little bit of chest fat, a little bit of lower back fat, a little bit of belly fat. No, unfortunately, it's not possible. Your body decides where the fat is stripped off as the time goes on. But when it comes to developing the muscle groups, you can bias what muscles will get bigger. So over the last 6 months, I really started to double down on the small muscle groups, like the neck, like the upper traps, for example, isolating the shoulders more, the arms, the forearms, isolating the abs, the calves. So basically, when was the last time in the gym that you did see someone working their neck, isolating their forearms, even the upper traps, doing some shrugs from them, doing ab isolation, seriously, calf training? Most of the time you don't see it that much. Majority of people are having this big more mindset, so they are focused on the big lifts, which develop their chest, of course, their back, the thighs, and everything else gets kind of neglected. So if you achieve these 3 points, have above average muscle size compared to the general population, and develop these small muscle groups that the majority of population are neglecting, and you have below the body fat that the average population have, you will have a great physique. So you will stand out from the crowd, and then they will start wondering, well, aren't you taking something? No, you just understand what makes a great physique in the first place. Point number 4 is obsession with compound lifts and neglecting the isolation. So in the previous point, I already did start debating this point. It's the big more mindset. So a lot of people, when they are training at the gym, they are focused on the chest, on the back, on the thighs, and they are putting compound lifts at the very top. So everything revolves around the compound lifts. If you are doing bench, then it's sufficient for the front delt, it's sufficient for the triceps. If you are doing chin-ups, they say that the biceps do get enough stimulus and they will grow from it. If you are doing deadlifts, then that's sufficient for your forearms, it's sufficient for your upper traps, even your neck. If you are doing squats, then it's sufficient also for your calves, and they are counting this fractional volume, and they are looking down at everyone that performs isolation lifts for these smaller muscle groups. You see, I'm not against the compound lifts. They still are very effective and they should be a staple in your program. And I'm also doing the compound lifts, and majority of the time I'm starting with them in the program, and then I'm transitioning to the isolation lifts. But they should be treated equally. They are not inferior, the isolation lifts. That's how natural bodybuilding is working. If you want to get, for example, bigger triceps, biceps, you need to isolate it to get the best results possible. Like to get a decent arm development, I used to do the bench and I thought it was sufficient for the triceps. Or I did chin-ups and I think, well, yeah, that's enough for the biceps. But no, these arms didn't grow that much from these lifts. I was always reaching about this 40 centimeter arm measurement at my peak, and I was stuck at this for like the last 5 or 6 years. Only when I started to taking the isolation lifts much more seriously. In the last 6 months, I increased from 40 to 42.5 centimeters and moving forward even now. So that's insane progress. So don't put the compound lifts above the isolation lifts. Treat them equally and just look at your muscle groups which you want to develop. Point number 5 is not training to failure. Now this was also a big mistake of mine, because when you are brainwashed into this powerlifting, powerbuilding scene, they all say training to failure is bad. You will just overtrain, you will get injured, you will get this, that, and whatever. So if you take a standard program like the 5x5 on the bench, you will not train to failure on this. So the idea of this program is to preserve your strength and do what it's called sandbagging. So if you do a 5x5 on the bench, let's say with 80 kilograms on the bar, for example, and you do your first set, you do 5. Okay, on the second, you do also 5. On the first set also 5, on the fourth set 5, on the fifth also 5. Okay, what does it mean? On the first set, on the second set, on the first set, you did here 5 each, and you can still do 5 after that on the fourth and fifth. What does it mean? Well, it means that you saved a bit of strength on every set prior. So on the first, second set, you left reps in the tank, reps in reserve. If you really wanted to push on the first set, you probably would have been able to get 8 repetitions even, not 5. So you are not training to failure here, you are leaving reps in reserve. And I always used to apply this to the other lifts. For example, I was doing 3 sets of bicep isolation, like an easy bar curl. And I used to do 10 reps, 10 reps, 10 reps over 3 sets. So in my opinion, the first 2 sets were not effective at all, because I was far away from failure. Because I was sandbagging, preserving my strength. For sure, I could have gotten more. I could have gotten, like on the first set, let's say even 14 reps. On the second, if I will be pushing myself, 12. And then maybe on the last, like 10. Something like that. And then the sets would have been much more effective, much more closer to failure, and I would have gotten better stimulus in the bicep. And basically that's the whole point of bodybuilding, is to stimulate the muscle, cause damage, then it can repair when you are resting, and it will make the muscle bigger, and then the muscle will be also stronger. And if you're not training to failure on most of your safe lifts, there are some exceptions where you should be leaving reps in the tank, then what are you doing in the first place there? These sets are not effective and they are not stimulative enough to cause adaptations to grow your muscles. Then you're just wasting your time. So nowadays, majority of the time, I'm training to failure on the safe lift. If you have a more dangerous lift where you don't want to reach failure, like a squat, like a Romanian deadlift, for example, where there's a risk of injury, then yeah, leave like a 1 or 2 reps in the tank. But on the safe lifts, especially on the isolation, you need to push it hard to failure or sometimes even beyond failure. Point number 6 is sloppy bulking, or calling it the off-season in general. Now, the problem that I see with bulking is people are getting sloppy when doing it. They are very meticulous when cutting. They are thinking about tracking calories, observing their deficit, observing their program, how they should train on the cut. But when it comes down to bulking, it kind of gets everything thrown out of the window. They are not tracking the calories anymore. They are over-consuming most of the time the calories. They are not thinking about their training. Then it's not off-season bulking, it's your season. This is the time when you focus on building the most muscle possible. So this is the time when you should be overthinking about each element in your training, in your nutrition, being accountable, knowing what is the right number to gain on your body, the weight on your frame on a week-to-week basis, how many sets you want to do in a week, your exercise selection. This is the time that matters the most. This is the majority of time that you should be spending in. But no, most of the people are being very sloppy in their bulks. So that's why you bulk up, you gain way too much body fat, you cut down, and you basically are spinning your wheels over many, many years. So bulking, it must be constructed very thoughtfully, very strictly. It's much more important than your cutting phase. Mistake number 7 is abs obsession. So the problem is when majority of people are starting to bulk and they see that they are getting a little bit of body fat on their frame, the abs start to fade away. They have not that good definition anymore, and they get scared to bulk even beyond this, and they jump right into the cut. They are bulking for like a couple of months, 2-3 months, abs start to fade away. I need to cut. I cannot risk losing the definition in my abs. And this is also a big problem, and they end up spinning their wheels for many, many years because bulking is inevitable. The definition, it will fade for sure. Overall in your body, you will lose the shoulder vein, you will lose the bicep vein, lose the ab definition. Of course, it's not an excuse to get fat here, but basically don't expect to look straight ready or shredded majority of the time, because when bulking you must be prepared to do it for at least a year, if not even more. So if you are obsessed with your abs, with maintaining a lean level physique, you don't want to increase your body weight, and if you are staying at like 10%, 12% and you don't want to increase it anymore, then don't expect to build a lot of muscle. Point number 8 is the Neti limit. So this is a myth in my opinion. A lot of people are saying that you have diminished returns on a year-to-year basis, which is true, but majority of the time there are not enough lifters here on YouTube, on this platform, that portray advanced or even elite natural physiques. They are very scarce on this platform. Majority of them are hopping on juice before they even achieve this peak natural physique, so we don't even know what this natural limit could be. There's also this talk about newbie gains. Yeah, in the first year, in the second year, you will make a lot of progress when you're lifting. But if I'm looking at my own journey, I'm now in my early 30s. And I started lifting when I was around 17 years old. So that's like approaching 15 years under my belt when training, and in the last 6 months I made some ridiculous gains. So it's like I'm once again at newbie gains, even after like a 15 years of training under my belt, because I optimized everything for hypertrophy training, and my physique, it did blow up over these last 6 months. So I have newbie gains once again, and the natural limit that I thought I did break myself, and I see in the nearest future I will get even better, even bigger. So you see, even after training for many years, 10, 15, or being in your early 30s, it's not the limit achieved. So why debate hopping on gear? Just stay natural and push hard. The limitations are just in your head. You can push beyond it. Now, mistake number 9 is poor programming in general. So when you are looking at someone's program, when they are bulking, and you ask them how many weekly sets you are doing for this muscle group, what is your exercise selection, are you using dynamic rep ranges or static rep ranges, what is your rep range for this lift, what's your sequencing throughout the day, what is your split, push, pull legs, upper, lower, full body, whatever. Most of the time people cannot answer these questions, and they don't have a plan in the first place. They are doing the big compound lifts, at the end throwing some isolations, which they are doing half-heartedly, and that's why they don't get any results. But that's a very deep talk about programming. You can check out my previous videos, or you can check out the link in the description below, which you can find my coaching application. And point number 10 is a general point. I would say it's a lack of information. So you see, the problem with me personally was I never had a problem with work ethic. So in the last, let's say 5 to even 7 years, I was hitting the gym on a consistent basis. So each week I was doing on average, let's say 3 to 4 workouts. And I was consistent with it. I was pushing it very hard. But still I didn't achieve a great physique that would set me apart from the others. I did see all these people that are training only from time to time, being not consistent, and sometimes they had even a better physique that I had. But I was pushing hard, I was very consistent. The problem is lack of information. You see, you can push it very hard, but you will be just like a mouse on the spinning wheel. The more you push, the faster the wheel will spin itself, but you will stay at the same place because you don't know all the information that you are lacking, and it can be very subtle, like in the arm training, for example. I was pushing the compound lifts hard, the bench, the OHP, the pull-ups, the chin-ups, and the arms, they were capped at 40 centimeters. I couldn't get them bigger, no matter what I did. And only after realizing you must isolate them and train them to failure, train them with sufficient amount of volume, only then they start to grow. It's just a little tweak, but makes a huge difference. And there are these little pieces, these little golden nuggets of information that you must apply in your training to really separate yourself from the crowd to achieve a great physique. So that's why if you are following the general trend of the powerlifting community, just get stronger, and you expect to get bigger in doing this, it will not happen. Because you have here 2 points. Focus on strength, so just get stronger, or focus on just get bigger. Majority of people are still stuck in this mindset of just get stronger. And yes, your strength will go up in the power lifts, and as a side effect only, you will get a little bit bigger. Yes, that's true. But it's a side effect. Keep this in mind. On the contrary, if you will just focus on getting bigger, so getting bigger muscles, then as a side effect, you will get stronger. So that's 2 complete opposite things. They have correlation in them for sure. But if you will hyper focus only on strength, then the size gains will just be a side effect. You must flip the switch. You must focus here on getting bigger. Focus on hypertrophy training and you'll get bigger. And as a good side effect, you'll get a little bit stronger. And ultimately, that's the video for the people that are only concerned about this year, getting bigger. And they don't care at strength at all or very little. And basically they were brainwashed from the get-go by powerlifting. Anyways, this was the video. It was a very long one, my little rant here. But basically these are the, I think, major 10 points that I did make mistakes on in my whole lifting career. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video and I will see you soon next time. Bye.